Still on the path of preparation, there's still a sense of me, the meditator, realizing emptiness. But during that path of preparation, this sense of gap, this sense of duality of me, the meditator, emptiness, what I'm realizing, starts to collapse. And then by the end of the path of preparation, that completely collapses. And then we enter the third part, the path of seeing. Seeing here means to see emptiness directly, a direct, non-conceptual realization of emptiness. So now, in this experience of emptiness, when we're in the experience of emptiness, there's no longer a sense of me, the meditator, and emptiness, the object I'm realizing. There's just the realization of emptiness, direct. So if we're sitting down and having some sort of realization or having some experience, and we're thinking, oh, I'm directly realizing emptiness, that's 100% proof we're not. Because in that time, it's direct, non-conceptual, no thoughts, not even a sense of a meditator, a me, the meditator. There's just the experience of emptiness. Often here the analogy given is it's like water poured into water. So with that direct realization of emptiness on the path of seeing, now if you look underneath, there's a number 7. It says, initial direct realization of emptiness, Arya. So Arya here is, there are two types of practitioner. Someone who hasn't yet directly realized emptiness and those who have. Those who have are called Aryas. An Arya practitioner is someone who's had a direct realization of emptiness. Because this is a very significant point in the spiritual path. Because from this point, we're really on a one-way ticket out to liberation. It's only a matter of time and we're out. Because now we've directly realized emptiness. That direct realization of emptiness is now strong enough to start to wipe out ignorance and mental afflictions. Before that, on the path of accumulation, path of preparation, and for us as beginners, any experience of emptiness may be strong enough to sort of temporarily subdue our mental afflictions a little bit. The stronger the experience, the more it can subdue. Now, for us as beginners, if we don't have a very stable, clear mind, we do the Vipasana meditation, we have a little taste, and then already when we finish the meditation, there's no effect anymore. But if we become more focused, we have that experience of emptiness, then after the meditation, that experience may still be affecting us for some minutes, hours, or days. And during that time, then our mental afflictions and grasping are a little bit more reduced. We'll feel more calm, less mental afflictions, a little bit more connected to others, a bit more loving kindness and compassion, and then slowly that'll wear off. By the time we get to the path of accumulation and preparation, now that conceptual realization of emptiness is strong enough to really keep the lid on the mental afflictions very well. Meaning by path of preparation, now mental afflictions, even though we haven't gotten rid of any yet, because of that power of that realization of emptiness, our mental afflictions don't come up very much, and if they do, they're very weak, and they only last a very short time. But from a path of seeing, we start to wipe out ignorance and mental afflictions. But one realization of emptiness directly is not strong enough to wipe out all of our ignorance and mental afflictions. So we need to continue, and that is the fourth stage, path of meditation. And here the word meditation from the Sanskrit bhavana means to cultivate or familiarize. So on the fourth stage, we are familiarizing ourselves again and again and again with that direct realization of emptiness. We continue to directly realize emptiness again and again and again. And then slowly, slowly, we are wiping out ignorance, mental afflictions. And we see here the path of meditation is divided into 9 sections. Those 9 sections plus the path of seeing, we have 10 sections. They're called the 10 grounds, or in Sanskrit, the 10 bhumis. So we go through these 10 grounds with direct realization of emptiness, wiping out more and more level mental afflictions and suffering, mental afflictions and ignorance. And then by the time we get to the end of the 7th ground, if you look there, there's number 9 underneath, it says nirvana. So by the end of the 7th ground, now we have wiped out all of our ignorance and mental afflictions, which means we've been liberated from mental afflictions and suffering. We've achieved nirvana, but we still haven't got to enlightenment. We've still got 3 more steps to go, 8, 9 and 10. So what's different here, or what we need to do extra, is that, we said at the beginning that when we look out on the world, everything appears to us to exist independent of us. And we're saying that, of course, things do not exist in the way they appear. But then the question is, well, if they don't exist like that, why do they appear to exist like that in the first place? What causes this mistaken dualistic appearance to begin with? And that is here what we see is what's called the cognitive obscurations. Something is obscuring our mind. And that is that our grasping, our ignorance, also stains our mind with what's called the latencies or stains of ignorance. It stains the mind. And the analogy to understand what that really means is often you get the analogy that, you have a bowl, you have a clove of garlic, you put the garlic in the bowl. Even if you take the garlic out of the bowl, the garlic stains the bowl with the smell of the garlic. The smell is left behind. That's a little bit like the stain of ignorance. Ignorance stains our mind, and that stain in our mind is what causes this mistaken dualistic appearance. So to get rid of this mistaken dualistic appearance, we have to get rid of these stains. So we have to continue, and they're very difficult to get rid of. So we need to continue to realize emptiness again and again and again over stage 8, 9 and 10. And then slowly we'll get rid of these stains in our mind. And then right at the end of the 10th ground, we sit down the last time to meditate on emptiness, realize directly. We eliminate the last subtle stain in our mind, and then the very next instant, everything is appearing to us, and we're enlightened. And we're still realizing emptiness directly. So someone who's enlightened realizes emptiness directly and sees the whole world at the same time. For us, we have to alternate. Either we're seeing the world or we absorb into emptiness. We can't do them at the same time. But when we're enlightened, we can, and that's the 5th stage, path of no more learning. We've finished the job, we're enlightened, we're Buddha.
So after we made the meditation, we realized that we experienced emptiness?
The direct one, yes.
Yeah.
When you come out of that realization, you directly saw emptiness. Yes.
Because in the meditation, you not in the...
Well, there's no sense of
okay.
separate sense of me.
Yeah, okay.
In the Theravada, you can reach step 9, basically?
Yeah. So, within the Theravada, there's something similar, but the final goal then would be more or less equivalent to the 7th. Although the map looks a bit different, the path, it's sort of some similarities but some differences. But the final goal in the Theravada is the Arhat.
But you do realize emptiness in Theravada.
Right. So we talked in the Theravada that the insight were the 3 marks of existence: the impermanence, dukkha, no self. So then we realize no self. But remember, in Buddhism, we have these different philosophical schools. And the philosophical school that we're following here, this what's called Majjhimika, they would say that realizing this no self, this no substantial me, self-sufficient me, very good, but it's not going to get you to nirvana. So they would say that, yes, everyone, even those who want to achieve nirvana, have to realize emptiness. That's their claim.
Just to understand, these stages are solid?
Solid.
If you practice and your teacher says you are at stage 5 in the peak, it's...
Yeah, so remember this is...
Measure them...
Well, these are... See, the thing is, of course, we're not saying that this is this is the first signpost, this developing bodhicitta. So it's not like before here we're nowhere. I mean, there's a whole thing coming before that, and then we can go up a bit, back a bit, But from this point on, there are quite clearly defined, measurable steps that we can see. Before that, it's like, well, you're going better, things are going okay or not, but because we haven't really reached any significant milestones. But from here, it's fairly clear the points. But of course, it depends on what, like in the Tantra or Vajrayana practice, we're using a whole other level of the mind, and so the map looks very different. I mean, there are some similarities in terms of getting rid of things, but it wouldn't be the same step by step as here, because there we're using the very subtle mind, so that's sort of like supercharged approach. So the Tantra map looks a bit different to this. Yeah.
Where is the blooming that it's you cannot fall from it? Like it's.
Okay. So generally, I think it's said that at least, and there are different assertions about this, and I think it depends a little bit on the individual. When are we on a one-way ticket out, or when can we sort of fall backwards? Certainly, I think from the path of seeing, when we have a direct realization of emptiness, then we're really one-way ticket out. But I think I've seen that also it may be possible that earlier that we're already got to the point where we're not going to fall back again.
And it goes to the next life?
Yeah, so remember we have the continuum of the mind, which means if we do a lot of effort in this life, it's not like if we only got so far, then next life we start from square one. No. Otherwise we'd probably never get there. But so all the work we do in this life has imprints from that. So therefore we have those imprints, and therefore in the next life, if we find ourselves in good conditions at a young age, we'll sort of quickly get back to more or less the level we left off at. So that's why in the Tibetan system, the Tibetan tradition, they have this system of what's called Rinpoche. Rinpoche means precious one. So a Rinpoche is someone who they have managed to identify as someone in the previous life has got quite advanced, and now they've identified, oh, that person is now this child here. So then they give that child good conditions as they're growing up, so that by the time they're maybe a teenager, they're more or less back to the same level. And then they're very precious because they can help a lot of people. So that's what the word Rinpoche means. Any other questions about this chart?
How many life cycles? In what stage you are now?
How long is a piece of string? There are, of course, it depends on many factors. It depends on the capacity of the person, where they are. It depends on the conditions they have, whether they have access to a teacher. I mean, there's no fixed thing that says X amount of time. And certainly when we talk about in the Vajrayana level of practice, they talk about given ideal conditions, then we can achieve enlightenment in this life if we have those ideal conditions. So there are many different possibilities.
I try to reborn in India.
Well, maybe India in the next life may not be so good. I don't know.
When did you arrive to the path of faith?
I'm still back here somewhere.
What does that say for us?
One thing we shouldn't do is, sometimes when people see this and look at the amount of effort needed, or they look at even the shamatha practice and go, wow, I need to put a lot of effort there. Oh, that's too difficult. I won't bother. I think that would be a big mistake, because whatever effort we can manage in any of these practices, we're going to benefit. So, of course, we can say, that to achieve the goal is going to involve a lot of effort. But it's not like that if we don't achieve the goal, we don't get any benefit. Whatever effort we can put in, we'll reap that benefit. And what these practices are saying is that you engage in these shamatha vipassana practices, then yes, that's the long-term goal, but if you do them now, you'll get these benefits from day one. So then, I think that's a good motivation to enter into the practice, that whatever effort we can manage, we're going to benefit. So let's do that. And then the more we benefit, maybe the situation changes, we can pour more effort in and we become better at it, and then somehow we really start to accelerate our progress because of those better conditions. So.
Well, I think that a lot of us are interested in these things not with the expectation that we'll reach enlightenment, but with the idea that it's good for us to do it. That there are, and I think that there are things in Buddhism that are directed in that way. The idea is to sort of more healing.
Exactly.
Receptivity.
Yeah. I mean, expectation is a big obstacle. I mean, in anything in life, expectation is really crushes us. So, of course, in anything in life, we need to understand the goal and how to move towards that. But then we need to drop all expectations, because it's just craving and attachment, and it's just going to block us. So then, if we can drop that and then just do the practices the best we can, then we're going to receive a lot of benefit. And I think some of these practices, particularly these shamatha practice, observing the mind, can quite quickly bring enormous benefit. Particularly, where, like I said, healing practices and so forth, because this sort of shamatha practice is very much a healing practice, and it really helps us to become the masters of our mind. So I think there's a lot of things in these practices, even at a very basic level, that can really enormously benefit us in our modern society. So it's up to us. What's the saying? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So it's up to us to check it out. If we don't check it out, we'll never know. Okay. Any last questions? Otherwise, I think it's time for another short break. Are we having a break actually, or straight away? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Last question, very quick.
Can we imagine experience? Can we, if you conceptual something, some sort of experience, I don't know, some of the levels or something, the levels that I've not had, the experience I didn't experience in meditation, can I imagine the experience before I...
Yes and no. I mean, now we can have a little taste of emptiness, and that can give us a little bit of an idea of what it's going to look like a little bit further down, but that's still a little conceptual experience. I mean, the direct realization of emptiness is completely non-conceptual, so that's a whole other experience. It's something we've never experienced. So to sort of project forward what that might look like, I think would be very difficult. But certainly if we have a little taste of emptiness, we can understand what that might look like if we deepen it a little bit, but then we transcend that whole thing and come to a direct non-conceptual realization, and that's a whole new ball game. Okay, let's leave it there. So I think there's a talk with the Dharma friends now, a wrap-up talk. Then we'll have a short 15-20 minute break, and then I'll come back for my last session. So I think we'll probably finish before, we're supposed to be finishing at 5, but I think we'll be finishing before that. So whenever they're finished, 15-20 minute break, and then we'll come back and I'll do a wrap-up session, talk a little bit about some advice, integration, where to go from here. So that's the last session.